Stu, again, thanks for joining in. Certainly you're the guitarist from Night Legion. And so thanks for joining into the Metal Pit. We're happy to have you. So welcome aboard.
Thanks, Billy. Thanks for your time. Excited to be here for your viewers, and hopefully we can make it as interesting as possible.
Yeah, no, for sure, and certainly look forward to talking about the new Night Legion album, Fight or Fall. It's a fantastic album. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, thank you very much. We poured a lot of heart and soul into it, spent a lot of time on it. So yeah, to hear that is the reason why we do it.
Yeah, great, good to hear. So, Stu, before we get into the album, maybe you could sort of give us a bit of history of the band. I know myself, I discovered the band probably just a few months ago, so very new to me. Just for the listeners and viewers, maybe sort of a brief history of Night Legion.
Sure, absolutely. So I've been playing in bands now for about 30 years. And I was in and am in an American heavy metal band called Death Dealer.
Yep.
Which features Ross the Boss, who was in Manowar.
Oh, Manowar, yeah.
And we released 3 albums, and we did a bunch of touring. And our singer, Sean Peck, who a lot of people know from the band Cage, Sean got really busy, and Ross got really busy, and they went off touring. And it left me with a 12-month period where I really had nothing going tour-wise. This is back in 2015. And I thought, you know what? I've got all these songs written for the next Death Dealer album, and I did. This is a solo band. I did Empires of Eden. I did 4 albums with that. Got all this material left. What am I going to do? And I thought, you know what? I'm going to form a band of my best friends. I'm very lucky out here to know some incredibly talented guys that are really good mates, and that's what Night Legion really is. It's about loyalty first, friendship first, and in the band, you know, I've got a bass player that I've been with now for 22 years. He was way back when I was in a band called Dungeon. We came to Toronto, and Night Legion was formed on that premise in pulling some of my best buddies together, using some of those songs that I'd collected but hadn't quite been right for Death Dealer, and kind of Night Legion was born. So people can see the logo there. That's the new album, and we released a debut album, which was a lot of fun through Massacre Records. We did some touring, and in Australia tried to work up a bit of a name, I guess, for being, you know, a good international support band. You know, when the internationals were coming out, we wanted to try and set up that kind of situation. Went really well, and then sort of, you know, COVID hit us, right? Like it slowed everything down. So, you know, all these different impacts have been the gap between the kind of 5-year release of the debut album to this new album, Fight or Fall. Yeah.
Oh,
so
okay.
Essentially a band of best friends and brothers, and it's one of those little dream situations where everyone knows each other really well. I go back almost 30 years with the other guitar player and the drummer, so we're real tight.
Wow, great. You know, that's good to hear. And what better to make music with your best friends, right? So it sounds like the perfect story.
Yeah, it's good.
Oh, cool. Yeah, and that was one of my questions, was why the sort of 5-year break between albums, but I figured likely the pandemic was the cause there. Okay, cool.
Yeah, we had a couple of other reasons too. Like I got busy with Death Dealer. We released another album that took off, and then we had a lead singer at the time on the first album. He had another fairly successful band and focused on that, and that slowed down the writing of this album. And then we swapped out singers to another guy who we have now, Louis.
Yep.
You know, incredible vocalist. And again, we go back 25 years. And so all these range of impacts that occurred have impacted on it, but certainly that 2-year horror period we all went through was one of the things we all know about, right?
Yeah, I know, crazy times. No different here in North America, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Cool. So Fight or Fall now fully released. I believe it was June 30th. I'm still waiting for my copy to arrive, of course. Massacre Records. What's the best ways for fans to get their hands on the album?
Yeah, I think certainly from North America, there are a range of outlets. Like the Nuclear Blast site has an American arm, Nuclear Blast stores selling it.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of outlets that have access to this. We also have a cool red vinyl version of the album that we remastered specially for LP. So the LP does sound slightly different to the CD, but the best way I think is through that reputable Nuclear Blast site. Australia, people know, JB Hi-Fi and Utopia out here, but there's a number of outlets, and hopefully you'll get it soon if you've
Yeah.
been waiting. Yeah, where are we? Today's the third, so my time, so it's a few days overdue. So maybe they're waiting on stock.
Yeah, the coming from the U.S. though, it usually gets stuck at Canadian customs, and I
That's
wouldn't be surprised if I get it in 3 weeks, to be honest. Uh, that's the way it goes. But it's interesting you mentioned about vinyl, and you can probably see behind me. I'm a big fan of vinyl. So I did sort of see that on your social media. So what
right.
made you do that decision? Like, are you a big vinyl guy yourself? I mean, must have been
Yeah.
extra cost and time involved.
Yeah, there was. Yeah, I'm a big vinyl guy. I love my vinyl.
Oh, cool.
I think one of the things that has been great with the band Death Dealer is our singer Sean puts these great vinyl packages together. Double gatefold sleeves, double LPs, variant covers. Like, he's done the whole thing, and off the back of the success in the Death Dealer side of things, we just went, you know what? When you take a CD and put it directly to vinyl, the compression's so much more. The tones, I don't know. I think it sounds a little dead if you just take a CD and put it straight to
Agree.
LP.
Yeah.
And so we worked with the guy that mixed and mastered this, a guy called Chris Themelko. A bit of a shout out there to him in Melbourne. He did an incredible job on this album and made it sound very organic and thick and rich, but we wanted that LP to really pop off the turntable. And we spoke to him about it. He's like, look, you have to remaster. We have to handle it as a completely separate product. And boy, I'm so proud of it. I got the test pressing from the label and put it on
Nice.
my turntable. And I was so excited to hear it because I'm hearing different colors in the sound. And if you love your LP, you'll really understand that if you hear like the Spotify version, we also specially mastered for Spotify, believe it or not. So, there's different colors that you can hear in the production. And yeah, you're absolutely right. We put a little bit of extra time, effort, and money into it, but that's my job, right?
Yeah.
When I want you to pick up my album, I have to make, the artwork as cool as it can possibly be. I have to make the package right. I have to make the audio right. That's my job. So we take that very seriously, and we've done that on this album.
Oh, fantastic. I look forward to hearing it. So thanks for doing that as a vinyl fan.
Mhm.
Cool. So I mentioned I'm a big fan of the album, Stu. I did a review of the
Thank you.
album at the Metal Pit. Sort of gave it, I think it was an 8.5 or a 9 out of 10. Just
Thank you.
wondering, what's the reception been like so far? Been well received?
Yeah, we're pretty surprised. Whenever you release an album, there's usually two or three slamming it. There's and look, let's face it. People are allowed their opinion, and we honor good and bad reviews. But so far, I haven't seen anything out there that says it's crap. The nice thing is people. There's a common thread running across it, and I welcome your honest view. We went for power, right? This isn't happy heavy metal. This is face down, heavy power metal moving forward. Guitars, we've got some orchestral stuff in there, but it's more your Wagner-esque, dark, evil sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So people are seeming to pick up on that, which is what we were really intending. Is this album is a dark album, it's a heavy album. It hopefully speaks of ghosts of the past of US power metal, your Vicious Rumors, your Manowar. That's what we want to try and do. I get guys that do all the kind of dancey, poppy power metal. That's cool, but we're not doing that. We're doing old school guitars in your face, big bass, big guitars, and big drums. So yeah, that's what we're hearing in the vibe of reviews, and we're very happy with it. People seem to dig it, and it's a short album, right? It's 9 tracks. It goes for less than 40 minutes. We culled like 16 songs down to 9, and we did that on purpose. We worked with the label because the labels want an hour's worth of music, which is reasonable. They want bonus tracks. And I went to Thomas at Massacre Records, and I said, look, what are your favorite albums from the 80s, like what in 70s? And he's talking Black Sabbath, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. He's talking Number of the Beast. I'm like, dude, these are 4 tracks aside. These albums, these are classic albums because they were short. The songs were right. They didn't give you 14 tracks where track 13 is like why are we doing this? So that's part of the approach we've taken, is to make this album as punchy as it can and with the best songs that it can possibly deliver without giving you filler. And we're finding that in the reviews too. People seem to appreciate that.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Yeah. Certainly the all out power metal songs like Babylon Burns and Soaring into Black, Harvest of Sin, Fight or Fall. Love those tracks.
Thank you.
But the other thing I really like about the sound is like the band, will often sort of slow things down with like a nice melodic passage. But then when it takes off again, it just makes it that much heavier. Like it's so effective, I find. It's just
Thank you, mate.
songwriting.
Yeah. I guess a lot of that's our influences on our sleeve. Maiden. Like, let's face it. As heavy as Maiden are, they're also the kings of dynamics.
Yeah.
Priest, and we wanted to mix up these songs to make them palette cleansers. There's orchestral parts in there. I love writing orchestral pieces, and I don't know if you're familiar. Here's a little side note for people that love shred metal, but there was a band in the 80s called Cacophony with Marty Friedman and Jason Becker. And
yeah.
I'm an obsessive fan of that band. And we, at the start, I think it's at the start of Harvest of Sin, I think it might be. There's this little acoustic homage at the start of that I've kind of borrowed from that. So sorry, the sun's shining and pretty bright there. That's cool. Let me move that around a bit. Sorry about this.
Oh, no worries.
Got a beautiful sunny day.
I don't doubt it.
So yeah, it's there's some light and shade on the album, and that's what we've gone for.
Cool. And one song that really stands out for me, the Hand of Death. Whereas some of the others are more power metal, like that slows it down. It's heavy, and at times I even get like a bit of doom metal in there, all mixed in. Just a great song and a great way to end the album.
Yeah, thanks. I think that's likely my favorite song on the album.
Okay.
It's one that I wanted to put on there. I love Candlemass. I love doom metal.
Exactly.
And even the newer Candlemass, I think some of their best stuff. So Hand of Death, it's when you listen to power metal, it can become quite formulaic, right? Like mid-tempo verse, half-tempo pre-chorus, and then double kicks in the chorus. Like that's everybody does it. And I just went, no, what do I want to feel here? And we kind of went the other way, right? Like Hand of Death has a halftime chorus. It's a little unpredictable. So yeah, I'm really glad you called that out, because I really, really dig that track.
Yeah, no, it's such a pleasant surprise to end the album that way. Very cool. And even I say, Stu, in your guitar playing, right? Like, in so much power metal, you got bands, it's just about how many notes can they play and how fast can they play. But like some of my takeaways are just some like beautiful, like, melodic solos with lots of feeling. And, maybe that's part of the cacophony influence from years ago.
Yeah. Thank you again. I think the thing is, this album I've done the speed thing before on 15 albums, who's the quickest. And this is the first album where I've actually composed all of the parts for all the solos down to the note. Like normally I just go in and blast away and see
Mm.
what feeling I get. A little
Mm.
kind of a Dave Murray approach, I guess. But this approach was let's construct solos that are meaningful. And if it's not a million notes an hour, so what? And I think I've ended up with a better result. It's the best guitar playing I've put to a CD so far, and very proud of it. Yeah, what do you say?
Yeah, no, as you should be, as you should be. You mentioned Louis, so certainly Louis made a big contribution to the album. How did that come about? I think you mentioned it briefly. You were friends with him for 25 years.
Yeah, Louis is a great story. I've known Louis probably 22 years ago when I was in a band called Dungeon. He was in a band called Crimson Fire that we used to play together with, and he sang on my Empires of Eden album. I released 4 of them. He sang on 3 of them, and we just became buddies. And then about 3 years ago, I started getting these texts on a Friday morning. It was, "Happy Friday, mate,"
Mm.
and it was from Louis. And next Friday, "Happy Friday, brother. Hope you're well." It's just checking in with me, and I just said, "Look, are you interested in singing again?" And we were parting ways with Vo, and he's like, "I really want to get back into it." And I can't tell you, man, the timing could not have been better.
Mm.
Um, and boy, what a voice! I think he's got one of the most powerful voices out there. Great lyricist, um, really great melodic vocal writer. Like I wrote nothing on this album, lyrics or melodies at all. It was
Mm.
all him. So that's a testament to what a great songwriter the guy really is. So yeah, people need to hear this guy as soon as possible.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, and it's interesting. That was kind of my next question was, the song "At World's End." That melody and chorus, like that's like a total earworm. Like it totally sticks with you. And so, I was just sort of thinking, is that something you think through in writing, or is that Louis 100% on his own? Sounds like it's all Louis.
Yeah, well, the other cool thing about that song is that that's pretty much um, a collaboration with Cole, our other guitar player, and Louis. This album has a lot more collaboration in it in this time. So what you're hearing is a very different kind of approach, I guess, to writing as I've done it in the past. I've done a lot of the writing myself. So this time we had some real collaboration from the other guys. That's a really good example of
Hmm.
everybody getting together and coming up with cool ideas.
Okay, cool. And then I know on Hounds of Baskerville, you had Mike LePond from Symphony X joining in. How did that come about?
Yeah, so Mike and I have been buddies for a long time now. He's the bass player in Death Dealer, and obviously Symphony X. Everyone knows him from
Yep.
Symphony X. We just became firm friends, and I heard, I was writing a song, and I thought, man, I got to get Mike on this, because what Mike does, he has a gift of elevating anything he plays on.
Mm.
So you can write something great, you give it to him, it turns out better, because he just plays completely out of what you think you might do as a normal guitar or bass player. He's very Geezer Butler, and
Mm.
so I think, if people hear that song, they're going to hear this bass just going all over the place in a way that's so musical and but still cohesive with the rest of the song. It's quite great. And yeah, he sort of graced us with his presence on one track, which was amazing.
Yeah, no, it was great stuff. The one thing the you held the album up there earlier, the album artwork. Certainly very cool album, and as you and I know, as older vinyl guys, a lot of us pick up albums for the artwork. But even the previous album had the wolves. I'm assuming there's like a theme or a connection, or what's the story there?
Yeah, so the first album, I think I might even have a copy here. I do. It's wrapped in plastic, so hope you can see it. Sorry about the sun. I'm trying to block out the sun here too. So that's the debut. I don't know if you can see that very well. The actual wolves on the front are the band. If you look closely at the front cover, if people look that up online, you'll find that, like, my flame tattoo appears on one of the walls,
Oh,
and
interesting.
the
Okay.
character in the middle is our first singer, Vo. We had a bit of fun with that. Um, and the wall, the Night Legion name seemed to lend itself perfectly to that concept. I did float with the guys about maybe trying a different concept, and they were all completely unanimous that they wanted to continue the wolf theme.
Okay.
And like you said, this is the first time you've heard us, right? So I said, look, because we're 5 years after the debut, this could be the first time people hear us. Let's go with a wolf theme. Um, and luckily, Dusan Markovic is the artist, just incredible. And we're very lucky to have him. And, who knows? We'll see what happens with album number 3 if we go that way again, but it certainly serves the music well.
Yeah, no, it might be hard to break away. I mean, certainly think about Iron Maiden abandoning Eddie, right? Like a few albums,
Yeah.
it's hard to do once you get going.
I'm mindful that the Wolf concept is pretty strong out there. There's Power
Yeah.
Wolf and all these other bands that are doing that kind of thing, but we're running with our own vibe on it, and it seems to be working pretty well.
Okay, cool. And then maybe a what if question, if I could. Now that the
Sure.
album's out, and you certainly have had, or I'm sure you've had time to reflect on it. Anything you'd do differently, or go back and change, or you're 100% satisfied?
That's a great question. Anything else I do? Uh, Actually, no. We're super happy with the major aspects of it. That we remastered for vinyl. I love the track listing. I think the order of the track listing's right. Um, no, actually, that's a really good question. I had never really thought about that before, but thinking about it now, I can't. It's nothing I'd wave a magic wand on to change.
Well, that's a good sign.
Yeah.
How about touring, Stu? Any sort of plans for? I know myself, I travel to some of the international festivals in Germany and Europe. Any chance of seeing you there, or maybe even in
Mm.
North America one day?
Look, we're hoping to. We're talking to Massacre Records about that now. We just played a show recently with Udo in
Okay.
Australia. He did a show in Sydney, and we played that. There's some footage up on YouTube. If people look that up today, we've got a video clip up there for Babylon Burns with the footage from that show. So the band is active and live. We just really have to make something make sense for us to get over. And we're in the throes of talking about what that looks like for this year. I think the festival scene in Europe is locked out for this
Yeah,
year, of
probably.
course, the summer festivals, but we'll see what happens next year.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no, that would be really great to see you guys live. Um, yeah, so then you mentioned a couple of your other projects, Stu, Death Dealer, Empires of Eden. So for people who are familiar with Night Legion, how would they differ these projects from that band? Is
Mm.
it similar style like power metal, or totally different sound?
Mm. It's a really good question. It's not an easy answer that I can think of because I'm a writer in all three. There's a
Mm,
common thread that does fall through them, but Empires of Eden's far more experimental and dare I say a bit more indulgent.
mm.
You know, I'll just play the music that comes straight out of my head and my soul. I'm not thinking about um, I'm really not thinking actually. I'm just
Yeah,
doing, right? And so there's a degree of creativity and a degree of freedom. Songs are a bit longer, passages are a bit deeper. It's a little bit more progressive. Death Dealer, you've got Ross the Boss writing as well. So we're talking, the Manowar thing with the speed and power of what Sean brings and what I'm doing. So that's a little bit more I guess epic and Night Legion I think has its melodic side to it. Even though it's heavy, it's still melodic. So the three acts have their place and do their thing. But yeah, they're different outlets for me to do different things musically.
okay. And the other bands, the materials out there available to purchase?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I guess the best way to find stuff's either on Spotify or the Empires of Eden stuff's actually not on Spotify. Uh, it's been a while since I released an album. I think about 7 years, and I never signed a digital release. So, but YouTube is the way to go. People put everything up on YouTube now, so it's all there. Death Dealer, Empires of Eden, and Night Legion. You can hear the whole lot.
Oh, cool. Yeah, no, for sure. I plan to check that out next. I enjoyed Night Legion so much, so it seems like the next step.
And the Empires of Eden stuff had, like, I had Udo Dirkschneider on the album. I had Ralph Sheepers on the album. I had Rob Rock, Mike Vasera, a whole bunch of people that I've idolized for many years. And, it's a lot of fun.
Oh, nice. I'm a big fan of Ralph Sheepers and his early work in Gamma Ray and, of course, Primal Fear. Oh, cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely going to check that out. So maybe just a couple, we'll start to wrap it up here, Stu, a couple of general questions just to maybe get to know you a little bit better. What were the last three albums you played, just from strictly a musical enjoyment perspective?
That's a good question too. I have a pretty diverse range of listening taste. An album I kind of play every week is an album by a guy called Beck called Morning Phase, that I got turned on to by Zach Wild. I was working with Zach on a tour as his guitar tech, very, very briefly for 2 weeks, but we became buddies. And he turned me on to that, which is a crazy album. If you like Pink Floyd and chill, believe me, it's even though Beck does like some horrible dance music and stuff like that, this album is a real gem. Look, the new Raven album that I think only came out 3 days ago, I played that 4 or 5 times. That's phenomenal. John Gallagher's a friend, and they're an incredible band. So definitely, I think that album. And oh, dude, it's got to be Priest live. Like, once a week I play Priest live, the double live album from '86. That's the blueprint for me. That and Live After Death. So most of my tastes stop at about 1990. Right.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm listening to a lot is still the old stuff. So yeah.
All right, cool. Actually, I just picked up that new Raven album on Friday. Haven't spun it yet, but look forward to it. The last one was
it's blistering, absolutely blistering, and they've done a great job. It's very rare to find a band so long into their career still releasing high level, top tier product.
Yeah, no, great stuff. And then, Stu, what would you say your 3 favorite guitarists are?
The holy trinity for me is Steve Lukather,
okay,
from Toto. Neil Schon from Journey, and the third guy is a Toronto native. Is Pete Lesperance from Harum Scarum.
nice.
He's a guy I constantly listen to get inspiration from, and he's one of the best human beings on the planet. So yeah.
Oh, cool. And then my last question is probably a very general question, but what's the metal scene like in Australia? Is it sort of doing really well, fully out of the pandemic at this point?
Yeah, the scene's always been really strong out here. Like, there's always been high quality, world class bands. You've got Vanishing Point, Black Majesty, Silent Night. There's this whole cavalcade of different styles. You've got thrash bands, Hidden Intent. So the scene's quite strong. We're a pretty small country. I think we only got 30 million in the whole country. So for such a small country, I think we do pretty well. We got some strength out here. And there's every 2 weeks there's a metal gig on in Sydney or Melbourne. And yeah, very strong. I highly recommend people look up those bands and check them out, because they got a lot to offer.
Oh, nice. Yeah, you mentioned a few there I didn't recognize. I think I know, some of the older, later 80s, early 90s thrash bands, but haven't heard too much of the bands you mentioned. So very cool.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Stu, just again, in the sake of being respecting your time, I think we'll wrap it up here. Certainly
Thanks,
lots
Billy.
of great information. Thank you for your time, spending some time here at the Metal Pit. I really appreciate that. And if I can, just, congratulations to you and the other guys on a killer new record, man. You definitely have a new fan here in Canada.
Thank you, Billy. Thanks a lot, mate. That's all we care about, right? Like if one person says they dig it and they want to listen to it more than once, our job's done. So um, we're not slowing down. There'll be another album, in the next couple of years. We're halfway through writing that right now. So
Okay.
yeah, thank you very much for your time and your viewers. And check us out on social media. Drop by, say good day. We've got a whole bunch of videos up on YouTube. And look, the red vinyl does look stunning. There's only 250 copies worldwide. And I'd like to hear from you in a couple of weeks about what you think of the vinyl sound.
Oh, will do for sure. Well, thank you. Thanks, Stu. You have a great day.
Thanks, Billy. See you, brother.